quick break, and Connie Frisbee is going to be here. We're going to learn about West Africa. And I don't know if you know where that is or what's going on, but she's going to tell us. Stay tuned.
This piece of land to build a girls' school on. And it's centrally located between 3 different villages so that it's safe for the girls to travel to this school. And this is how beautiful it is. Okay, so a week and a half later, she's constructed 6 of these fiberglass pods on this piece of land, and the school is started. Wow. And it's all over a handshake with an Afghan.
She must have done some negotiation in advance or something.
No, it just all happened right there. And she knows the Afghans enough to trust them and who they are. She has volunteers that work with her in different areas.
Well, that was Connie Frisbee on Afghanistan. Now we're talking about West Africa. You really like to travel, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, good. Tell us about your last trip. Africa, of all countries, huh?
Before that, I just wanted to mention one thing, since you've been showing the segment on Afghanistan. And many people know me from my travels to Afghanistan. And the last time I was there in 2010, my friend Tom Little was killed after he'd gone out on his whole team was killed. And I just wanted to put out to people who might want to support what he was doing or support the telling of his story as a marvelous individual who's just like anybody else who chose to turn their life into service. They can go to Kickstarter and look for the film The Hard Places. They're trying to raise money to complete this film. It's a film about Tom and Libby Little's life in Afghanistan.
And Libby did not go on that.
No, she didn't.
She was like a week off or something, right?
And it's a story about Afghanistan and what's happening there, and they're trying to bring it into current day. So
wonderful.
Kickstarter, and just check it out, The Hard Places.
And was it Hard Places? I'll write that down. Okay,
and
good.
I think they've got 30 days left to raise the funds, and anybody who isn't familiar with Kickstarter, it's a great place to go. So that aside.
Now, West Africa, what brought you there?
Well, in 2011, I went with our church to Ghana. And I saw a side of Ghana that intrigued me to see more. Ghana has been greatly Christianized, and I have no problem with that, but I'm much more of a person who's interested in what the culture was originally. So I had this desire to go back and see a different side of Africa. And so another friend of mine who travels a great deal more than I do had the idea of arranging a trip to go to West Africa. We went to Ghana, Togo, Benin, and Burkina Faso. They're all in the same area. Yeah. And we visited 15 different ceremonies and sacred events that were going on, voodoo ceremonies, Islamic ceremonies. And so I got a totally different view of Africa through seeing the traditions. And it sort of brings out in my mind, not just what I've seen in Afghanistan, but I've seen in other countries, is this struggle between keeping one's culture and joining the 21st century. And how do you do it without throwing the baby out with the bathwater? I knew very little about voodoo before I went. I had the idea of voodoo as, you stick pins and dolls in this sort of witchcraft
it's
kind
really
of
a
thing.
Religion.
But it's a religion just like any other religion, and it's the only thing I can say is it's very similar to what I see as the Native American tradition. And it's a tradition of finding the world between nature and one's ancestors, and learning from one's ancestors, bringing that information forward and into the current century, and how one lives with the natural surroundings around you. Witchcraft is a separate tribal belief. It is not necessarily a part of voodoo. So you get different kinds of things. If you look at some of the ceremonies and some of the healing ceremonies, some of the herbs and so on that are used are the very basis of our own medications and medicines that we use today. So it's not hocus pocus. Yes, there's magic in it, but we all need a little magic in our lives.
In our lives, isn't that the truth?
I think we've gotten too far away from that in many respects. The whole thing, you can look at birth, for instance, and you can explain it scientifically all you want, but there's still that mysterious moment of that sperm going to the egg, and why does it, and why that egg, why, you know,
exactly.
all that kind of stuff. That's mystery. It's just like the scientists that look at the smallest little particles, and they're still mystified by what happens. Every time they go even smaller and smaller, there's this mystery, you know? So I think that we do a disservice to looking at other people's religions or ways that they live their traditions if we try and put our own view on top of it. I know you and I were talking a little bit earlier about the whole idea of initiation in some cultures and how initiation works and what one has to do for initiation. And one of the things that I still struggle with trying to understand myself, don't get me wrong, I am not for female genital mutilation, but there's a piece of it that I did not understand until I was there, which is to become a part of your village as an elder or someone who has a voice in the village, you must go through initiation, both male and female. So if a male chooses not to be circumcised, and they're circumcised between the age of 18 and 25.
Oh, ouch.
And it's done in public, and it's a real choice that a man makes when he decides he wants to marry. It's a choice he makes. If he does not make that choice, he cannot participate as an elder in his community, as a voting member, if you want to look at it that way. Same way with women. Female genital mutilation has been outlawed in Burkina Faso. It is still done in back rooms because unless the whole culture changes, women who do not have it done have no voice in their society. So women do choose to a certain extent because they want a voice in their society. And like I say, I'm not justifying it in any way. It's just one of those things that when you start to understand the bits and pieces of it, then you begin to wonder, how do you change those kinds of things?
Exactly.
And I know you and I talked earlier, and this is what I've seen in Afghanistan. A lot of it is education.
We need to take a look at some of your pictures and maybe get a...
Yes.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry. While we were talking, I was looking at you and they were...
I was too.
Yeah, that was okay. Only a minute. Okay, we have about a minute left. If people want to hear you speak, do you give talks?
Yes, I do. And I also wanted to say that I have a show coming up at Siena College in the Yates Gallery, which is in their library. It opens on the 24th of January. The opening is between 5 and 8 p.m., and I'm going to talk at 6 p.m.
Wonderful. And what date was that?
And that's January 24th. Okay. And the show is open through March 15th.
Okay, and that's at Siena.
And that's at Siena.
Okay, good.
And I am available. Go to my website, contact me.
And you'll give talks
and I'll give
get
talks.
People interested in that.
Right.
I think what you do is incredible, and we've been using your video from your Afghanistan throughout the show. So Schenectady today in and around the capital region.